Good morning. It's 9:07. I gotta be better. I gotta be more punctual. It is Thursday morning. It is time for Coffee with Fred. I'm your host, Fred. Oh, I see. One of my favorite people is here, Christian Copenhagen. I love that guy. He is he's one of my favorite people. I don't get to see him very often or spend much time with him, but dadgummit, he's a righteous dude. Christian, I hope you have coffee. If you're with me the whole time, that's awesome. If you got other more important things and listen to Fred Rocco, blah 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 blah. I understand, but I just want everybody to know I love Christian Copenhagen. He is such an awesome person. Well, welcome to Coffee with Fred. So real quick, before I get to my Motley Crue and Bill Aucoin story, we just had Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you peeps out there. And I'm still wearing my holiday hat because Christmas is one of my favorite times of year, and so is 4th of July. So I'm not going to break out the 4th of July hat early, and I'm going to retire this guy in a couple days. But today is National Pepper Pot Day. I don't know what that is. I just wanted to see if there was anything cool happening between Christmas and New Year's. Apparently it's National Pepper Pot Day. I have no idea what that means. And special little fun fact for all you bowling enthusiasts. In 1862, the bowling ball was invented. Who knew? Now you did. Now everybody knows because everybody's watching Coffee with Fred, right? It's been a while since I've been bowling, probably 6 years. But I bowled a lot when I was a kid, and when I was in junior high school, I was part of the 200 club at the Caldwell Bowling Alley. That meant that pretty much every game I played, I bowled over 200 points. There's no way that I could do that right now. I could not walk into a bowling alley and bowl 200. I might cross the 100 line if I closed my eyes and just threw the ball down the lane, but there's no way I'd hit 200. All right, let's get into it. My story. So in the late 90s, Midline started working with former Kiss manager Bill Aucoin. Who doesn't know the band Kiss? Even if you hate the band Kiss, you probably know them. I like the band Kiss. I'm not like a super fan or anything like that, but I digress. Bill Aucoin, we started working with him, and the way that we got in touch with him, I had been playing in another Boise band who had a relationship with Bill Aucoin through doing recording in Salt Lake, I think with one of Kiss's former recording engineers, Sean Delaney, I believe is who it was. And he liked that band and told him, hey, Bill, you should check out this band. So I ended up playing in that band for a while. And then when I was out of that band and in Midline, I stayed in touch with Bill Aucoin so that as I felt like we had reached a level where we could work with somebody like him, that I could call him up and say, hey, Bill, I got this going on, and what do we need to do? So Bill said put a string of shows together locally, and that he would fly out and spend a week with us and give us his critique. Well, so we had booked all these shows, and I think it was just a couple days before he was supposed to fly here from Miami, he got really, really sick. And so, of course, we were disappointed and kind of freaking out. But it ended up working out better because that was in the winter of 99. Yeah, 98, 99. Well, then in March of 99, Motley Crue was touring, calling it their greatest hits tour. And they were having these competitions all over the United States on having bands do Battle of the Bands to open for Motley Crue. Well, we had first heard about it through a friend that was in Twin Falls, which is on the eastern side of, not Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, on the eastern side of Idaho, for those of you who don't know our geography here. It's on the other end of the state from where we are. At any rate, so they had heard on the radio they were having this Battle of the Bands, and we hadn't heard about it in Boise yet. So my wife, who's always been heavily involved with helping promote whatever I'm doing and the bands I'm in, sent the radio station in Idaho Falls a press kit. This is before you could, the internet wasn't being utilized heavily as it is now. So we sent a physical press kit with CD, picture, bio, all that kind of stuff. Well, and then we heard that it was going to be a Battle of the Bands for Boise. Well, we thought we needed to keep this closed about the Idaho Falls show, because we kind of felt like if the other bands in Boise knew about that, not only would they be submitting for that show as well, that they might be looking at Midline going, now wait a second, they're already doing this other show. So all this theorizing on what ifs. So at any rate, Mary sent a press kit. Apparently that radio station was being overwhelmed by the bands in that area, and they decided, you know what, this band from Boise is pretty good. We're going to have them open for Motley Crue in Idaho Falls. So we had that show, and then Stymie was saying there's no way that we're going to get the Boise show. Anthony was saying there was no way. Stymie was saying, oh yeah, we're going to get it. And I remember Anthony and Stymie like being pretty passionate, and Anthony saying, what planet are you from, Stymie? There's no way we're going to get both those shows. Well, we had the one show, and so we called Bill Aucoin and said, okay, we have one show we're opening up for Motley Crue. Would you fly out for that? And he said yes. So he flew to Boise from Miami, and we were doing the Battle of the Bands for the Boise show. And we went to the venue, which you local people might remember. There was a club on Fairview that Roche played at all the time. I cannot remember the name of that club at all. If somebody knows what it is, put it in the comments there, because I cannot for the life of me remember. I want to say it was Rascals. Maybe it was Rascals. I can't remember for sure. And anyway, yes, Rascals. Thank you. Looks like Mare's here. Thanks, babe. We were there, and Spike and Brian were the radio DJs. Excuse me. They weren't on J105 anymore. There was another rock station, like 103 something. I think it was kind of short-lived. But we were there, and of course a handful of other bands, and Anthony was talking to Spike and Brian, and I was sitting in the van with Bill, and Anthony came in, and he's like, they're not going to pick us. And I said, what do you mean they're not going to pick us? And Anthony said, I just talked to them, and they know that we have the show in Idaho Falls, and the promoters specifically told Spike and Brian, you cannot pick Midline to open this show because they already have the show in Idaho Falls. So Bill gets out of the van and goes over to Spike and Brian and is talking to them, and he's listening to everything that they had to say, and Bill said, well, there's no rule that says a band can't play this show twice. So they're like, yeah, but this is what the promoter told us. And so they said whatever they said. And then Bill Aucoin got back in the van, and Anthony and I are sitting there talking to him. And Bill said, yeah, they're not going to pick your band tonight. They've been specifically requested from the promoter to not have Midline play this show. And we thought, well, okay, this is garbage. and so we went into that show knowing that they're not going to pick Midline. It's not going to happen because we already had the show in Idaho Falls. And we put on the show of our life, right? Sorry, Mike, I'm not going to bring you on. I'm not going to bring anybody on. Played the show of our life, and we got done, and I was actually really sick that day as well. So I'm laying behind the stage on the floor. I felt like I was going to pass out. I don't know why I was so sick, but I was just sick. And, yep, see, Mary's right here to keep me in line with my story. And you were super sick. Yes, babe, I was. I was horribly sick. It was unreal. It wasn't because we weren't getting picked. I mean, like, I was actually sick. Played that show, and Spike and Brian are on the stage, and they're saying, this band tonight did all of this and blah, 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 and they were awesome, and that band is whatever they said. And the crowd just went crazy. And then they said, and then this other band tonight really went out of their way to promote this show. And that band is whatever that band was. And everybody's cheering. But they said there's one band here tonight that really deserves this opportunity. And there's no way that we can get around it. And they said that band is Midline. And we, of course, just went freaking crazy. Because now we had 2 shows with Motley Crue. We had the one in Idaho Falls, and we had the one in Boise. We're going to play 2 arena shows with Motley Crue back to back. We were freaking out. Bill Aucoin had no idea that they were going to pick us because they said straight to our face, it's not going to happen. And at that point, Anthony was like saying, so it's rigged. You know, every battle of the bands is, if you don't make it, or you think the cards are against you, it's rigged, right? Not always. Not always. But I could see how people might feel that way. So, of course, we're just, yeah, victory. So, I don't know if it was the next day. I think it was 2 days later was the first show in Idaho Falls. So we get in the van. We're totally excited to get there. We get to the venue, pull up, start checking in with whoever we're supposed to be communicating with, and kind of getting lined out. And the promoter comes out and says, you guys are not playing the show tomorrow night. We told the radio station not to pick you guys, and we're going to pick this other band. I'm like, and Anthony, who's very Italian, if you know Anthony, his Italian blood gets going. The mafia side of the Faggiano comes out, and he's yelling back at the promoter. He's like, forget that. We're going to play the hometown show, and you guys get somebody to come here. We'll drive back to Boise. He's like, no, you guys are already here. And I said, hang on a minute. So I went back to the van, and I tell Bill Aucoin what's happening. And Bill says, what? Let me talk to this guy. Let me talk to this joker. So Bill gets out. I take him to the promoter, and the promoter's just unleashing on Bill. I don't even think he knows who Bill is. I mean, we're talking about the guy who made Kiss, right? This guy signed Kiss, developed Kiss, put Kiss on tour with his own flipping American Express cards, you know. And this guy's unloading on him like, okay, and so Bill asked who the manager was, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he was like, oh, grabs out his phone, opens it, says, hey, so-and-so, hey, it's Bill. What are you doing, Bill? Oh, I'm in Idaho. What are you doing in Idaho? Oh, I'm with the band that's doing this greatest hits tour with Motley Crue. Hey, I got the promoter here. He's telling me that the band I'm working with can't play the Boise show. Yeah, they won the competition there. Yeah. And the radio station in this other town picked them too. I'll let them know. Hey, Fred Anthony, the manager tells you guys congratulations on both the shows. And he's like, yeah, the promoter's here. Hands his phone to the promoter. Promoter walks off. Comes back a minute later, hands Bill the phone, and Bill goes, okay, What do you say? Because that's how Bill talked, like this. He was very odd way of talking. If you ever see any interviews with Bill Aucoin, this is how he talks. And the promoter says, well, they don't have a problem with Midline doing both the shows, but we have to wait for the tour manager to make the final decision. And Bill says, okay, well, as soon as he's here, come grab me. We'll have a meeting. So we're milling around for like 30 minutes. I don't even think we've unloaded the van yet, or the trailer. And the tour manager shows up. And, of course, Bill knows who the tour manager is, and the promoter's right there. And he looks at the promoter and says, they were chosen twice to do these shows? Well, yeah. And he said, so what's the problem? There's no problem. Let them play the show. If you have a real problem, then come get me. Otherwise, don't waste my time. So we're like, yeah, okay. We're in. So we're getting ready to play that show. Well, the other touring band that was with Motley Crue, their bus or van or whatever they're traveling in broke down. So not only did we have that show, but then we had to fill more time because the other band wasn't there. So it was pretty awesome to be playing in an arena with Motley Crue. The other opening band can't make it, so they extended our set. I think we were supposed to play 20 minutes. We played for 40. And we're being treated as the inconvenience of the day by everybody, which is typically the case when you're the opening band and nobody cares about you or what you need to do. It's a Motley Crue show, right? So then they, I don't know if it was their management or who it was, or maybe it was the promoter, said, we're not feeding you guys. You guys can't eat. You're going to have to figure out food on your own. And so I know that some of our tech guys, because we had 2 tech guys, drum tech and guitar tech, and we were going to send them on a food run. So everybody pitched in money. I think they were going to go to McDonald's or something. And while all this is happening, Bill went and talked to catering and said, look, we're a band. We traveled here from Boise. We're 4 hours away or whatever. And, let us know if I can feed my band. Well, they came back a few minutes later. They're like, yeah, of course. They're part of the show. Yes, they can eat. So cool. No McDonald's run. We're going to have a much nicer catered meal, right? So we're all sitting in the catering area, and we all have these plates of food, and we probably got 3 or 4 bites into it before the head of security for Motley Crue comes back there and just screams at us. What are you guys doing? Just laying into us. You guys were told you cannot, you're not part of catering, on and on and on, and you need to go talk to whoever this other manager was. We're like, okay. And Bill goes down there with us, and she just starts laying into me, like, in my face, like, I did this. I didn't do this. We were just told, hey, you guys can go ahead and eat. So we did. Starts laying into us on all of this stuff. And she said, you guys were supposed to be down here 45 minutes ago to get your laminates and this and that and the list of rules and things. And Bill fired back at her, said, look, you people need to get your story straight. Something's going on here that my band is being treated this way. So whatever their exchange wasn't pleasant, but again, it's Bill Aucoin. I mean, he saved our butts on that show. And they agreed, they gave us our passes and all that, and then we went back up to finish eating. Well, of course, our plates had just been left there, so they'd been cleaned up and thrown out. So we didn't have a dressing room. Our dressing room was the bathroom, and we're down there and getting ready to do our show. And sound check was a little strange because we had brought a sound guy from Boise and who knew us and our songs and all of that. And we did our sound check, and they're giving us specific rules on, you can't walk on this part of the stage, you can't go out on this, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as you're done, get your stuff off the stage. Okay, yeah, we've done this hundreds of times already. We know what we're doing. And everybody's just super grumpy. Although the head of security for Motley Crue ended up turning into a friend. His name was Hawk, and he was like 9 feet tall. And just ripped. And he had this mohawk. And then Tommy Lee's drum tech, Viggy Vignola, if any of you musician friends out there pay attention to those kind of things, Viggy was very, very nice. So we ended up having 2 people that were on Motley Crue's side of the fence that were actually ended up being pretty cool with us. And so we kind of made friends with Viggy a little bit. We did our show. But the moment we were done playing, their crew was just being really aggressive with getting our gear off the stage, and they were like almost like sabotaging us in a way, because they were taking my cymbal stands apart, like every little tube out, like making a mess, and causing a lot of trouble for my drum tech Frank that I had at the time. Frank traveled with us for several years, and I had a way of stuff that was supposed to be taken care of that Frank was well aware of, and it was just a mess. They got all our gear out and they closed the door. We were out, and thankfully we had our passes. So they're dealing with this mess. The tech guys are Jimmy and Frank, and of course the rest of the band were hanging out with Bill, and we're walking through the labyrinth of hallways that are behind stages, and we come across Vince Neil. Vince Neil was super nice. Hey guys, I just got you. You're done already? I wanted to check you guys out. But apparently he flew in separate from the band, and then walked down the hall a little bit further. There's Nikki Sixx. And Nikki Sixx looks at us, and he's looking at Bill like, Bill, what are you doing here? I guess at some point in Motley Crue's career, they were seriously looking at Bill at managing their band. And so those two talked or whatever, and we briefly said hi to him. And we're back in our dressing room, the bathroom, and changing, and here comes Tommy Lee. Because he's got to go pee-pee, right? And so Tommy Lee's back there, and Anthony's going, there's Tommy Lee's right there. I know, Tommy Lee's right there. Yes, I know, Tommy Lee's right there. Dude, it's Tommy Lee. We're yes, we know it's Tommy Lee. And as he's getting ready to walk out, I introduced myself and said thanks for the show, like he had anything to do with it, right? But at that point, most bands are just kind of like this. They're in their own little world that, like, you can talk to them, they hear you, but they don't, like, it's like phew. And I probably do the same thing if I'm getting ready to do a show and somebody's trying to talk to me at the last moment. I'm just thinking about, okay, I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna put my ears in, I'm gonna do my thing. So I'm kind of like in gig mode, right? Which I think all of us do that. And so we ended up going back in, and we watched the show mostly, and then went to our hotel room, and of course we were all on cloud 9 celebrating the show, and that we were going to do another show with Motley Crue the next night. And Anthony woke up in the morning and did a radio interview with the guys from J105. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. Chris something. Chris. Dang it, I can't remember his name, but he actually passed away a few years ago. But yeah, it was just pumping up the show. And then, so the next show's at the Idaho Center the next night. Well, I don't think the Motley Crue's people knew that we were going to be there, the ones that were sabotaging our gear, because now our cases roll in and unfolds this drum case, and it's just in shambles. And we're on a time crunch, right? So now I'm having to help Frank rebuild my kit, while the guys who sabotaged my kit kind of sabotage themselves in a way, because now we're running behind because of something they did to us. And so it was a mess. It was a complete mess. And also, the promoter was there again, and he went to talk to, I think the manager of the Idaho Center at the time was Peter Jackson. And if memory serves me correctly, I think he had managed Moody Blues and Pete Townsend, I think, was also, was it Chad Grigg? I'm not sure who Chad is, Misty. But anyway, so Peter Jackson and Bill Aucoin knew each other very, very well. And so again, the promoter's like trying to like let this Peter Jackson know like how terrible we are and how much trouble we've caused. And Peter didn't want to have anything to do that. He's like, these guys are with Bill, they're fine. So we go to do our sound check, and this time the guy that's in charge of the stage, he's like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, maybe you're right. I didn't know his last name as Grigg, though. But it was Chris. He had a radio name, I'm sure of it. But I can't remember what his radio name was. So the guy's like, blah, 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 don't step there, you know the rules, blah, 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 sound check, cool, your guys are done. Well, the other touring band was there, so we only got to play for 20 minutes that night. And it was great, 20 minutes, 20 to a 40-minute time slot for opening for a band in an arena is pretty cool. I know when we played with Volbeat, I think we got to play for 45 minutes, and that was at the... it was called Taco Bell Arena at the time, but now it's... I can't keep up with Boise State and all the different people that own the right to name the venue. The Pavilion is what we always called it. But at any rate, so we played with Motley Crue, and it was awesome. And so our band meeting that we had with Bill after that was Bill said, okay, now you guys need to book your own tour. A week of shows. Plan this tour, week of shows, and I'll come out on the road with you guys. So back then in the late 90s, they had these magazines available from Barnes & Noble called The Musician's Guide to Touring and Promotion, which was page after page after page of clubs you could play in just about any city and who the contact information was. And this is just about the time that email's starting to sort of be a thing. So I spent a lot of hours just calling places. But our route ended up being, we went from Salt Lake, then we went to Vegas, then we went to LA. We did 2 shows in LA. Yes, 2 shows in LA. We went to San Diego, and then we went to San Francisco. And we booked that tour, and it went very, very well. And we learned a ton of stuff from Bill on putting a show together and how to look like a band and be rock stars. All of that was fantastic. Chris Brewer, yes. Chris Brewer, yes. Spud Brothers, yes. Thank you, Mary. See, my wife's always got me. She's got me. Yes, Chris Brewer. Yes. So if his last name was different from what Misty said, I don't know for sure. But we became a better band as a result of all of those things. And then it wasn't but maybe another year later that Bill had actually passed away from some complication in a surgery. But I think we're always thankful for Bill Aucoin's guidance and advice in helping us really refine how we put shows together and thinking about our look and all of those kinds of things. So that's my story about our time with Bill Aucoin and our time playing with Motley Crue. Of course, Midline's played with several hundred bands as an opening band and little stints of tours, like with the Jägermeister music tour, because we had a deal with Jägermeister and got to do some really, really cool shows as a result of being those opening spots, playing with those bands. My YouTube channel has been growing great, and I released my drum solo video from when I was a senior in high school. I did that like 2 weeks ago, I think, and I had found that video. It was 33 years old, and finding a VHS tape player was a challenge. and one that worked was a challenge. Okay, gotcha, Terry. And so I just set up my phone on a tripod, and I videoed that off my TV. So the sound isn't good because the tape is old, but man, that video took off on YouTube. It's getting close to 4,000 views, and it had a lot of Neil Peart influence in it because that was always my guy, always will be my guy. And so there was a lot of Neil Peart influences in that video, and it got a lot of traction. So yes, Terry Sharp, who is on here watching. Terry is a longtime friend of mine, and I met Terry when we were both touring in a band from Florida. And that's when I just flew to Florida to work for this company who put bands together and sent them on the road. There's more details to that, but I won't overwhelm you with them. But Terry was the guitar player in the band I was playing with. Phenomenal guitar player. Phenomenal. And phenomenal person also. He smiles more than I do. Is that even possible? The guy smiles when he's sleeping. I remember sharing hotel rooms with Terry, and he'd be sleeping like this. I'm like, this guy is just 100% happy all the time. And then I ended up touring in another band with Terry from Michigan. And I think that tour, we went Wyoming, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North and South Carolina, and I think maybe even Georgia. We might have snuck into Georgia. I don't remember for sure. Well, Terry has an awesome new metal band put together called The Rez. Tony Mason is here. Tony. Tony took over the drumming duties in the band I was in with Terry when I left. That band was called Pull, and Tony is another phenomenal, amazing person and a great drummer. And so at any rate, Terry has a new band called The Rez, and he's already done a handful of shows up in Alaska and some in Kentucky, I think, Terry, if I'm correct. But Terry needs a touring drummer. And so I've been working on learning Terry's material. The band, again, is called The Rez, R-E-Z-Z, and you can find some cool new music and videos on YouTube. Let's just make sure it's The Rez on YouTube. I think that's the case. It used to be under Terry's name. Let's put in The Rez. The Rez. Not Rex. If I can find the right keys here. I'm just coming up with Rez. Let me put in Terry Sharp. Terry Sharp. If you put in Terry Sharp, you're going to find The Rez. Okay? Yes. Or Terry, you can even put the link into the description here if you want. Oh, he says it is. Yes. R-E-Z-Z. Find The Rez. There it is, right here. Boom. The Rez. R-E-Z-Z. Really cool stuff. Awesome stuff. And I am going to hit the road with Terry, and I'm hoping that we'll get some really cool dates, and then Terry's goal is by 2024 that will be like a pretty consistent thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. Traveling with Terry is always fun. It's like a ongoing child's party. We need some piñatas and some balloon animals. I don't know. I know there will be shenanigans aplenty. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But like musically, it's gonna punch you in the face and other places. And I think it's gonna be really cool. 3-piece band. Terry's playing guitar and doing all the vocals, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But until then, Cliff Miller, January 20th at the Sapphire Room. I just checked on ticket sales before I jumped on here. It looks like there's about 45 tickets left. Terry says, we're going to sleep because we're old. Yes. I get this, I don't know how to shut it off on my phone. I get this bedtime reminder that pops up at 9:15 at night. And of course, because it's winter, it's so dark out at 9:15. By 7, I'm like, ready to go nighty-night. But yeah, we're going to get our sleep this tour. Most touring musicians sleep about 20 minutes a day, I think, and the rest is just like, yeah, we're probably way past those activities, but it'll be great. All right, but Cliff Miller's Sapphire Room, January 20th, there's like 40 or 45 tickets left. And then New Year's Eve, my lovely wife, Mary, the band she sings with, Casio Dreams, is playing the Ironwood for New Year's. It's only $10 to get in. What New Year's Eve party can you go to that's less than $80? Not very many. You can go see this incredible 80s tribute band for $10. Pretty awesome stuff. And you might want to get there a little early because Casio Dreams knows how to pack the people in on a regular show. So this is New Year's Eve. It's gonna be nuts. I'll be there early because I'll be chauffeuring the star of the show to her show, and get a drink and some food, and settle into my little spot at the Ironwind. So if you see me, come hang out, say hi, and we'll get right in the front row, and I'll look starry-eyed into the singer's eyes. Right? Right, babe? Love you, babe. We're gonna have fun on New Year's, and I'll get to take the singer home. I mean, I waited my whole life to say that I'm going to go home with the singer, and now that I am. So, at any rate, you guys have an awesome day. Hopefully, I'll see you on New Year's at the Casio Dreams New Year's Eve show, and see you with Cliff Miller on January 20th. All right? Have a great one, and I'll see you soon. Bye.